This episode of From Angel to Exit is brought to you by Dash. Dash offers remote knowledge workers to streamline workflows for U.S. businesses. Services include CRM management, email organization, social media content, bookkeeping, research, lead generation, and more. Dash professionals save clients time by managing routine tasks, allowing businesses to focus on growth and other high-value activities. For more information, visit hirewithdash.com. Are you serious about planning a successful business exit? From Angel to Exit is your go-to resource. Subscribe to our newsletter at eckfeldt.com/podcast for even more valuable insights. And to get personalized guidance, take our free exit readiness assessment. It's just 24 questions, and it will give you a clear picture of your exit readiness. Find the assessment at eckfeldt.com/exit. Submit your results, and we'll schedule a free follow-up call to discuss your specific situation and the best way to maximize your valuation and ensure a successful transaction. Now, back to the episode. Welcome, everyone. This is From Angel to Exit. I'm Bruce Eckfeldt. I'm your host. Our guest today is Calvin Johnson. He is founder and CEO of Lykki. We're going to hear about that experience, about that exit, and really what he's doing today and what he's learned, and hopefully have a few nuggets for people that are early in the process that they can hopefully have a good, solid exit, achieve their goals, and do great things after that. So with all that, Calvin, welcome to the program.
All right, welcome. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for taking some time. Before we kind of dive into the business and all the exit stories and everything like that, I would love to get a little background, personal, professional. I guess, give us the story of becoming a founder, like what led up to that.
Yeah, I guess I didn't know I was an entrepreneur from a very young age. Grew up quite poor, single mother, things like that. So, if you wanted those Adidas running shoes, you had to go out and hustle yourself. So whether, collecting beer bottles or washing cars, things like that. But didn't know at the time I was an entrepreneur, but was fortunate enough in my teens actually to work with a couple of friends and build out a fitness retail store that we grew to 3 stores, and then I exited, and wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So started another company.
How old were you then? What was that?
I was like 17 or 18 years old.
Yeah.
And
okay.
We grew it to like 3 stores, and then the one guy bought us out and got this check, and man, this is pretty.
That's cool.
So I blew it all. So cars and furniture and girls. So
yeah, exactly. Interesting.
But I started another business, which was the home delivery service for Costco wholesale in Canada.
Okay.
That we delivered fridges and stoves, and I kind of grew that, but then I learned the difference between B2B and B2C, and really didn't like B2C. So. Okay. So pivoted again, and ended up with the business that I had for until I just exited in the last few years. So I had that for over 20 years, which was office supplies and office coffee. So all those big office towers downtown, they all need that stuff.
Yeah.
So spent time growing that business. Did quite well. Over 20 years, we delivered about 1.3 million orders, and
wow.
And total run rate was around 290 million in sales collectively. Some good years and bad years, but just really enjoyed the journey of being an entrepreneur and learning along the way. And probably one of the shout outs I have to give is to Entrepreneurs Organization, or EO. I'm sure a lot of your people are on that. Man, learned just a ton being a part of that. So I was quite active in that for a long time.
Yeah. Same with me. That was a big change for me in terms of being a leader and being an entrepreneur, is kind of surrounding myself with the right people and really changed my perspective. Exactly. I'm curious, like if you look back on some of these earlier kind of entrepreneurial experiences, like what were some of the, I guess, learnings, but also some of the things that really got you, kind of jazzed about being an entrepreneur that you were able to carry through to the next business?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many learning lessons, but probably the one that stood out the most for me was understanding corporate culture, understanding building a great team, being around great people. I'd have to say probably in the early days I was probably a terrible manager. Well, I was a terrible manager. Dictated authority, kind of thing. That doesn't really work. Why are people quitting, right? So I really leaned into that and really enjoyed it in building a great culture, a great work environment, happiness in the workplace. And I've spent a lot of time kind of reading about that and kind of studying that and applying it in my business and seeing how that made a difference. That people can have fun at work and be inspired.
Yeah.
And also the people that don't fit, it's pretty straightforward, the people that aren't going to fit in your organization right away, if you have a strong, clearly defined culture. So that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, tell me more about that. Like, how did you define the culture in a way that allowed you to make that clear and actually use that to really focus staff and talent?
Yeah, I think if there's one area that really stands out is the hiring process. There's a book called Top Grading.
Oh yeah.
It's about this thick, but you can really take away a lot of little nuggets from it that I'm sure you've heard. Hire slow, fire fast. So spending a ton of time. I mean, you really want people to want to be there, and so we would spend a ton of time on the hiring process, and then just a million little things of. Like I have 2 teenage sons now, and they're new jobs, and they'd get to the 3-month level, and I'd say, "Hey, did you get a 3-month review?" And they're like, no, they kind of talked about it, and maybe I'm supposed to get a raise, and there's just a million little things in a business that can make employees love you or want to leave. So
yeah, when you so I guess when you started Lykki, did you have particular ambitions of exiting? How did you capitalize things? Like, I'm just curious your vision for the future of the company as you in the early days of starting it.
Yeah, early days building out a business, at least I didn't think at the time, of the exit.
Yeah.
You're just trying to grow it or get a paycheck or things are going well. If I could go back and do it again. Well, I'm from Vancouver, so maybe this doesn't apply everywhere, but it sort of does. That I would have built the business around real estate. And I have a few friends that did that and just right-sized their business in conjunction or lockstep with investing in real estate or using the business as a real estate investment tool.
Okay.
So, we were always in 20, 30,000 square foot warehouses that cost way more than I could afford. Wow. If I had just sized the business correctly, fast forwarding to the exit, then right now I would have real estate as part of my portfolio. So that I would go back and do again. But and kind of in the years leading up to selling, what I really wanted to do was a roll up. That I saw in our industry. We were about 8-10 million sometimes a year, 30-40 staff, and I think we were the most sophisticated in our market. And I saw other competitors kind of struggling, and I thought, man, if we could just roll them into our building, again, this, our ERP was too big and our warehouse was too big, so it would have been a great roll up. And a shocking lesson I learned early was that a lot of mid-sized, maybe these are like $2, $3, $4 million players. Yep. They don't want to sell. They just didn't want to sell.
Like,
it's just that was their. It was really their identity. It was really their livelihood, and they were really holding out for. They thought, I'll exit when I retire. And I kind of saw in our market already the work from home. This is before COVID, and I thought, this is going to get tougher. And if I could roll up and get to say 30 million. Then private equity or maybe a bigger player like a Staples or something would come in and they've been known to buy, but they're not going to buy anybody under 10 million. So that was my first foray in thinking, I don't know where this industry is going to go. I'm not really, what am I going to do with this? How am I going to grow this? And I thought it'd be really exciting if I could grow this, through a roll up. And we hired people, M&A people and stuff, and put together packages and couldn't get
no takers.
No takers. So, but this story will come back to benefit me later. So,
so I like the kind of starting in the beginning phase. Like, how did you identify the need? And you said you were solving it in a particularly good way, or in a way that was better than some of the competitors. Like, what allowed you to do that? Was there an insight? Was there a capability? What gave you that advantage?
Yeah. Again, this goes to the story of selling that bit me in the ass. That our business was 2 industries combined. So office supplies and office coffee. But in office coffee, actually, there's a lot of food. So we did everything from fruit and milk and frozen.
Oh.
Oh my God! But of course, we're serving, again in Vancouver, like Amazon head office, 5,000 people, Microsoft, like all those big companies, and they would just spend money like crazy. And nobody worked from home at the time, so these kitchens were beautiful. So
I'm
actually,
sure.
a bigger portion of our business was actually food and beverage, compared to the office supplies. So we could be more efficient on our trucks and single point of delivery and warehousing, all those kinds of things. So I was looking at different people to kind of bring in just to kind of grow those categories.
Got it.
Where a lot of the other competitors were just very focused on one thing, office supplies only, or just coffee.
So so that combining those gave you kind of these operational efficiencies that allowed you to be better at both.
Yeah. From the consumer standpoint, we had this kind of slogan, one order, one delivery, one invoice. Instead of having 10 different suppliers, the coffee guy, the water guy, the toner guy, we could deliver it all in one truck, and so that helped us grow, and it was a unique selling proposition.
Yeah. Any kind of product segment that you tried to do that didn't turn out so well? Or I'm curious, like as you looked at where the opportunities there, what the experiments were and what you learned.
Yeah, alcohol and flowers.
Interesting.
Yeah, one day I was with this client that was a fancy law firm, and there's this huge bouquet in their lobby, and I'm like, "Those are fresh flowers. That's impressive." And they, "Oh yeah, we get that every week." And I go, "It's like $500 a week." And I'm like, "Well, can I bid on that? Like, it can't be that hard to deliver flowers." Who talk to the drivers? They're like, "What?"
Yeah.
Like, how are we going to deliver flowers? Like, they tip them over and things.
Yeah.
And then with our ops team, some customers want us to deliver alcohol. These customers, they would have like happy hour Fridays and give out booze and stuff.
Yeah,
and,
beer and wine,
like,
spirits. Yeah.
Hell no booze.
And why? Like, just from
two reasons. One, just the breakage or people stealing it, or who knows, inventory control. You have to lock it up probably. And also in Canada, at least in British Columbia here, there's a law that you can't buy liquor. We would have to buy it from a liquor store because we're not a distributor, and you can't mark it up and resell it. So you'd have to sell it at cost and then charge a picking fee or something. Oh, God.
Delivery fee or something like that. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm the idea guy. I'd bring him into meetings. It's like every time I go to a conference or something, and come in, oh, Calvin's coming back. Oh God, what does he learn now? Right?
This is a classic EO thing. Like the CEO goes off to some EO event, and then the team knows they just like, oh my gosh, Monday is going to be crazy because they're going to come back with like 50 ideas. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
but it was a fun platform to try a lot of new things, so I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Any other big kind of challenges around growth, or I mean, I'm curious how you capitalize things. If you just bootstrap this, like what was that like?
Yeah, I talked to another guy just a few days ago about bringing on partners in his business, and I said, especially through EO, I said, I've never heard a good story about partnerships. I said, if you can keep all the equity yourself, just. You can hire great people, just don't give them equity. Yeah. So luckily I didn't bring in any partnerships. But of course, it's always hard to raise money. I'd say probably the biggest challenge, especially being in business 20 years, is constant change in technology.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
You buy a phone system, and then all of a sudden now there's a VoIP phone system.
Oh, geez,
and you buy ERP system, and then that's out of date. And then you buy CRMs, and that's no good. And you need the next CRM. Then it's cloud-based, and then oh my God, it's like just never ending. And websites, and so as much as we sound like an inventory bricks and mortar kind of delivery trucks kind of company, I tried to be very technologically advanced. Internally.
Yeah.
But as soon as you invest in something and then you take out a big loan and some stuff, I'd take out $500,000 loans and things. And then, funny enough, about the time that you've paid it all off, all of this stuff is irrelevant. So, it's like, you just can't get it. And it is brutal. People told me when we changed our one big ERP platform, they said, just don't do it. for all the bells and whistles you get. It will slow your business down so much. It'll be so much, dead head space kind of.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that's my advice I've given to other people. If you can live with it, even if it's not perfect, don't go for the new shiny penny.
Yeah.
It's just way too much effort to constantly keep changing. Or wait one or two and then leapfrog, ahead to now it's AI, right? So just skip the other stuff and then jump to maybe 2 years from now, there's probably some amazing AI CRM that does it all for you.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Well, it's always a challenge. I mean, in my own business, we serviced a lot. We did a lot of development work for companies building these things, and then I've coached many companies around kind of these issues. Generally, what I find is there's this. It depends how strategic the tool or the system is to the business, and if it's really driving differentiation, then it's something you want to really kind of invest in and be on top of the market with. Everything else is just good enough, right? Like whatever basic system you can get, and don't mess with it, and just keep it running, because that's, I think, where a lot of companies, with limited resources and limited cash, like you can't invest and be top of the market on everything. You got to pick and choose and focus on those things that really drive differentiation. What else do you feel like you really invested in that allowed you to, just be a good player and grow the business and be valuable?
Back to culture, just investing in culture and trying to pay top of the market to find great people. Once we kind of learned that, although I still wonder if it was worth the money, but we had like Google like offices, kind of. It looked like a Caribbean beach town kind of, and free food. So we kind of emulated a lot of what I saw in these big companies, and it was great. I think it was a great hiring tool. I think it definitely it did. I'm going to change that. It definitely did, but it was kind of expensive. And then a lot of people kind of looked at it like, what do you need that for? Do you need fancy chairs for it? What do you need to give them food all the time? And it's like it works. So
yeah, and how did you make those decisions? Like there's lots of things you could do to make an incredible office or incredible culture. Like why those particular ones that were the things that you found really drove engagement and drove talent?
Yeah, I would visit a lot of my larger clients, and so whether it's Adobe or I'd see them all downtown. So just touring their offices, Industrial Light and Magic, the Star Wars stuff. Yeah. It's like. Yeah, Vancouver is like a super hot spot for all that kind of stuff. So so I'd kind of just get my ideas from that, and thought, I don't know. Again, I own it, so if I'm gonna blow the money and you try it and see if it works, and a lot of it was back to if we put on like a big Halloween party and then people didn't dress up. I don't know. I guess maybe I'm judgmental or something, but I'm like, are you really a fit in this company then? Because I can't force people to have fun, obviously. Maybe their work level is at a different level, but a lot of the culture stuff that we'd spend on either brought the team together or you would separate the people that just weren't a fit.
Yeah. And I guess when did you first sort of think about the idea that you might exit the company, right? In one way or another. Like when did this first cross your mind?
Yeah. I actually did. I took a bit of a sabbatical and went to Denmark and studied happiness, and went to Bhutan and things. And kind of when I came back, I thought, it's just kind of rinse and repeat, and how much, is money really everything, and all that kind of existential crisis thing. Of course, it was my 50th birthday, right? So, But I thought, okay, I got to go big or go home. That's when I thought, okay, I got to roll this thing up and then I'm going to sell it. I thought, at our level, maybe I could sell it and be okay. But I thought, okay, but I could grow it to 30 million or 40 million or something just with a roll up, then exit. So that kind of happened.
Yeah, yeah. And so once you made that decision, like what were the things you had to do differently? Like once you decided, okay, I'm going to exit. Roll up is my strategy. Like, what were your priorities at that point?
Yeah, leaning on EO for sure. Finding people that had exited, calling them up, getting tons of great advice. So many things. But one that stood out very, very early on that almost everybody said was, there's a big difference between cash and an earnout. Cash is cash, and earnout is vapor.
Yeah, so, it's not.
It's like somebody that said, "Oh, I did this deal," or some type of earnout, and chances are very, very limited. That was good. And
Okay.
I can just rapid fire off a couple others that,
Yeah, go for it,
that I
yeah.
learned along the way was finding an M&A firm is like finding a realtor. If you think you can sell the house yourself, or just pay attention to what you're getting in an M&A, they're not necessarily the bee's knees. I'm like, okay, that was good. But probably the most important person, and I learned in my deal too, is an M&A lawyer.
Yeah.
The M&A lawyer is the guy that's actually negotiating. You'd think the M&A firm that you're hiring, they're just making phone calls and they just want their 5%.
Exactly. They just want to do a deal and make a cut. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't really care.
Yeah.
But the guy that brought the most value, and luckily I was introduced to a firecracker guy that as an M&A lawyer, and he's the one that really haggled the deal.
Yeah.
Right.
And how? Like, tell me more about that. Like, what were the elements, or what were the points which were being haggled?
Just a lot of stuff in the getting the LOI deal points worked out, or whether he would talk to their team. We got bought out by a Fortune 500 company, so they had a large deal team, and so just talking that language and keeping the ball moving. And knowing when to push back. He asked me a great question early on. He goes, "How aggressive do you want me to be?" And I said, "Well, I don't want to lose the deal. I don't want to be an asshole about it. So don't." And he goes, "Okay, I just need to know what tone I need to take. Do you want me to be a pussycat, or do you want me to be a killer?" I said, "Okay, well, in the middle." And he said, "Okay, well, if there's something that I think they're taking advantage of you, then we'll decide who's going to call and work out that deal point or something."
Yeah.
But I had an M&A company for a little bit. They made some intros, and then I just realized they just weren't bringing great value. And as I was doing this roll-up, then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And our sales dropped 85%.
Yeah, exactly.
Overnight.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of dead. And I remember sitting with my wife. My wife worked in the business too, and we were talking to two lawyers, M&A lawyer and a bankruptcy lawyer.
Yeah.
It was going to go one way or the other.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I'm just going to get on the phone with these CEOs that we'd kind of dabbled around with during this roll up.
Yeah.
I just called them directly.
Yeah.
And luckily the one Fortune 500 CEO. He was the CEO for Canada that had been just brought in from a big company in the States. And his goal was to grow Canada. They weren't in Canada. And he was given a huge war chest. And in the end, the story goes that he bought 50 companies in Canada.
Wow.
And luckily, we were ready to go. And in my market, I know he reached out to other people and exactly said the same thing that I asked them. Said, "Are you ready to sell?" And he's like, "No." And this is during COVID. And they're still telling him no, and he's got a huge war chest. And not only was I ready to sell, but I had already prepared my entire data vault. So for your listeners, that I think this is the critical thing that you need to start a year or two in advance.
Explain this one, because I think this is one a lot of people miss.
Yeah. Having so the M&A company gave me a template that I had to fill in, and it took, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours. Then every little piece of detail you could think of, lease agreements, employment agreements, passwords, I don't know, everything you can think of. It's just, all in there. Even like the drawings for the sprinkler system in the warehouse. But when it came time, so this was during COVID, our sales are tanking. This CEO has a big war chest, and he's like, "Okay, well, we literally haggled out some numbers on the phone," and he goes, "Okay, I'll put you onto my team." And from that phone call to money in the bank, 3 months.
Yeah, that's crazy.
3 months I had it done. And when we got put onto their team in Chicago, there's like 10 or 12 people there. They're doing these deals. Remember, their job's to not only buy companies in Canada, but all over. That they said, "We just love talking to you guys. We love talking to Lykki. Every time we ask a question, you're literally giving it back to us in hours. And in the end, we ended up giving the whole data vault.
Yeah.
And said, here, just if you want to help
You
find it,
just serve yourself.
you just serve
Yeah.
yourself. And they said, you wouldn't believe how many deals collapse in that team. That team just goes back to the CEO and says, no, don't do this deal. These guys don't know what they're doing. And the CEO just makes a phone call one day and says, yeah, deal's off.
Yeah.
And they said, but we love you guys. You're literally within hours, where other times it takes weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why wouldn't you do it now? Like, I want my money as fast as possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Anything else that you feel like you did, well, you either were lucky or fortunate, or that you intentionally kind of did to make the actual transaction process easier?
What else happened? I don't know, just being open and available. I think just realizing, I've talked to other people too, and they didn't realize that basically it's your full-time job. You got to put everything else on hold if you want to do the deal.
Yeah.
We did an asset sale. In the end, this really pissed me off too, because the M&A guys really, push for like a share sale. I don't know why. And then talking to a tax accountant, a specific M&A tax accountant, and they're like, no, don't. It's not as bad as you think it is, because at least in Canada you could use your capital gains on the share sales. And he goes, no, there's ways that are going to be almost just as advantageous. Don't make that a deal breaker. Where first I would, and if I had gone to that CEO and said, look, if it's not a share sale, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Instead, so it was an asset sale. So we had to, right down to the brooms, right? We had to get rid of all our inventory ourselves and sell all our trucks. And like that took a while, but we were able to maximize, and we collected every penny in our AR. That was
nice.
That was great. Found jobs for any of our employees that wanted jobs too. So with the acquiring company, so it was great.
Yeah. How did that discussion go? Was that something they were willing to do? Did that take a lot of leverage?
Yeah, I got some other great advice too. That although the acquiring company had our payroll, they wanted us to sit down and basically ask these people. They said they'll take anybody that wants to come, because they were building a 100,000 square foot warehouse just down the street, and they were just rolling everybody in. And I said, with advice from this other guy, he said, well, tell them it's going to be really, really hard to get these people to move, but tell them with a 25% pay increase that it'll be better.
Yeah,
and so
make
it was
easier.
like great, just saying, hey, times are tough, and we've been acquired, and if you want to move over there, you get a 25% raise. And I had the paperwork. They gave me the paper, but you have to sign this right now. They're like, thanks.
Yeah,
great.
Exactly. Yeah.
Where do I sign?
Win-win-win. Yeah.
So, because I would have to go all that legal stuff with employees and exiting employees, it could be super expensive. I think I was looking for like $500,000, and I had people there with me 20 years.
Yeah.
And instead, they all just moved over. It didn't cost me a penny. So,
now, was the acquiring company, did they want the people? I mean, this was...
Yeah, because they were coming to Canada, and so they built out a big distribution center. In Vancouver, they just say, okay, well, we need X number of sales, so we'll just buy these 5 companies, and they had 20 to choose from, and so when they bought us, they said, well, we need all your people, so they took my ops people, and for a while they were even using our website, so it turned out great. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it just goes to show that, and this is what I found with most of the deals that I've been involved in, is like, you got to know what the acquirer really wants. Like, what are their, what are their goals? What are their objectives? What are their mandates? And how do you position yourselves, strategically to achieve those? And if you can do that, that's what drives valuation. I mean, regardless of what the comps are in the market, like, you're talking about a specific deal, a specific company. If you can understand those things and align, that's where you drive value.
Once I realized that CEO, recently brought in for a division in Canada, a CEO for Canada, a president for Canada, with a war chest of money, I'm like, well, I got something he needs.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
He needs me.
Yeah. Was there anything that he didn't, like, I'm curious, like, as you looked at your business that wasn't a fit, that you had to figure out how to either reposition or you were going to take a hit on, or What wasn't aligned?
Back to what we were talking about, that my business was actually two. It was the food and beverage and the coffee side, and it was the office supply side. So this Fortune 500 company was all the food, beverage, coffee side. So they looked at the office supplies and said, "Oh, we don't want that." So in the deal numbers, they're basically discounting a big portion. And I thought, wow, there's a lot of value there, and but I can't talk them into it. They don't want it. And so talking to other friends or the lawyers and stuff, they're saying, well, possibly you could sell that segment.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't a division by any means.
Yeah.
But instead, I called up an office supply people that might be an acquirer and said, here's what's going on.
Yeah.
And they said, well, but we're going to have the same customer list. Why would I want to do that? I said, well, but they're coffee and your office supplies. You're two different things. And so in the end, I was able to negotiate between both CEOs to get them to both sign off that they're both going to buy, for different valuations, but they're both going to buy the same customer list. Even the M&A lawyer, which he was a great guy, he's like, I don't think this is going to work. He said, why? There's no incentive. Why would this work?
Yeah.
But the office supply side, it was an okay valuation, but it was free money, really.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Otherwise, we're just going to go to waste.
There was a segment of Earnout, and sure enough, they shit the bed, and I got zero.
Of course, yeah.
They took some of my salespeople even.
Wow.
And the salespeople got over there, and they said, "Oh, this is a shit show."
Yeah, it's just a clusterfuck. Yeah,
not like you. So, and on that note too, that with Earnouts are going to, I stayed on it a little bit as a consultant, but didn't really do a lot. But all our staff. So imagine taking 5 small companies and putting them together in one warehouse. It was a disaster. We stayed in touch with some of our drivers and things. They said, orders were delayed. It's just. I always thought these big these big companies are so efficient. It was like terrible.
It's so surprising. I go in and do strategy work for these big companies, and I would think, okay, big company, they got to put it together. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is worse than the $5 million company that I'm working with, right? Like it's just just because they're big and just because they're successful in many ways doesn't mean they've got it all figured out.
The people who won, there was another competitor of mine that was about my size, and he just said no. And I think he won because it basically took 5 of his competitors out of the market, threw them into a building, and there was a shit show. Yeah. And then he swooped in.
He was left standing, yeah.
Yeah, I heard he took Amazon or a few other of my big customers he was just waiting just to phone up. He knew that it was going to
give it 6 months, yeah.
Yeah, the service level is going to tank, and we're just going to come in like the white knight. And so clever for him, I think. That's another strategy. Just don't sell. Let the other guys buy and crash and burn. So.
Interesting. I'm curious for you personally, like as you kind of got into the realization that, hey, I'm going to exit this thing, like how did this shape like your vision for yourself, for your future? I mean, a lot of founder or CEOs get caught up, their egos get very caught up into the business. How did you grapple with this, and then how did it become a springboard to your next venture? Yeah,
I mean, looking back now, a couple things that I've shared with people is, stress is a huge killer. And you don't realize how much stress you're under. Just, you go all the time. And then I think there's like statistics of people that retire or something. They're dead in 2 years or something. When you get a chance just to slow down or switch off. I mean, a holiday doesn't count, right? Yeah. That you really realize how much stress you can build in your life.
Cortisol levels are just high all the time.
Yeah. And but for me, I had a plan anyways that in about the last 10 years of my business, we built like an internal charity that we'd always been doing stuff locally, Children's Hospital and food banks and things like that. But I was fortunate enough to go to Nicaragua and build some houses, and I kind of saw, hey, there was a way to maybe incorporate this into my business. So for many years, we had this internal charity where every $1 a customer would spend, we would donate a liter of safe, clean drinking water. And we had this, wall in our office that showed, this, it was this garbage dump area in Nicaragua, 10,000 people, and we would supply them water and all these great stories. And of course, it helped with culture and things.
Sure.
And then I kind of did a little bit of a spin-off from that with a travel company to take people would see the pictures and say, oh, this is really cool. Other EO people or whatever would come and tour our offices and say, hey, I want to do something similar. I want to come to Nicaragua. Or, hey, how can I do one-for-one water in my business? So I had kind of this little side thing going, and I knew that, hey, if I could just get out of the rat race of office supplies and coffee, then maybe I could focus more on this charity component and working with corporate donors. So so I kind of already had something lined up. I think if I didn't, then you'd kind of go crazy.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of people do. I mean, they go crazy. There can be an existential crisis, right? Like if you don't have a little bit of a plan, I always talk about pull versus push, right? Like I want to have something that's pulling me into the next thing, not being pushed out of a situation. And
Nice.
And the other one I've seen more than one deal go south because the founder realizes at some point, like, I really don't want to sell. And now you're dealing with, unwinding deals or, dealing with, deals that don't follow through. And that can be pretty dramatic as well.
Yeah. I mean, it is a big part of my identity, and I was really proud of it. But I think with COVID, and man, I did the right thing for sure because, we're all about, bums in the seats, right? Offices. There's no way to service the at-home worker.
Yeah.
So the
whole
whole
care packages.
This whole business that I was in has been decimated. So, and now other people are calling me. I'm trying to sell. It's like, I don't know, dude. I think you're too late.
Yeah. Well, and then obviously COVID was one that was hard to anticipate or predict, but there's some things, I've certainly, a lot of businesses are in markets that have big shifts, and some of those shifts are, you can see. And so, a lot of just generally operating the business well and having the systems in place, the data vaults, being well organized to sell at any point can be a real advantage. If now it's like, oh, like the writing's on the wall, we've got 12 months to make a move here, right? You can't do that if you don't have things in place, and you can't do that if you're not ready to go through a transaction.
Yeah, shout out to Traction if you do the Traction stuff or Rockefeller Habits, all that kind of stuff. Systematize your business. I mean, 100%. When I see a business that isn't systematized like that, it's like, what are you doing? It's like so easy. It's right there. Just read this.
Yeah. Getting something in place, some kind of rhythm, some kind of process, some kind of strategic planning system, quarterly planning, something like that, and the SOPs and the supporting technology to drive them. Right? That's not only helps scale. I mean, I talk a lot about things that help you scale will also help you sell, right? If you do them right. So getting those things organized so that you're ready is half the battle.
100%. Yeah.
Kelvin, any other kind of advice or insights you can give to folks that are earlier in this process and either thinking about selling or not sure what they want to do, and kind of things that they should either think about in their business or think about for themselves as founders?
Yeah, I mean, early on for me, again, back to leveraging EO, is just talk to people that have exited, talk to people that haven't exited, or just have enough of those conversations, and I think everybody's life is different, so I think once you see other stories and how they play out, building a team, all the mechanics of it, obviously learn that, but it's all the soft skill kind of stuff that you don't understand. Like you said, you think you want to sell, you get halfway through the deal, and even if there's going to be a big payday, you're like, this isn't for me, right? So I was highly motivated. So
yeah, I can tell. Excellent. Kevin, this has been a pleasure. If people want to find out more about you, more about the work you're doing now, what's the best way to get that information?
Sure. The kind of the corporate social giving platform that I've developed now is called Club Need, or clubneed.org. And so if you go there, you'll learn all about that, and love to get some support there. And we also have a travel where we go down and build homes. Just had a trip of all EOers, and they brought their kids.
Fun.
Actually.
Oh, wow.
One guy brought his 9-year-old girl that was, just beautiful, just a sheltered princess from the, and her dad was so shocked. I mean, she was right in there, up
That's
to her
great.
elbows in concrete.
Yeah.
You know? But that's clubneedtravel.com. So just think Club Need and you'll find me.
Great. I'll put the links in the show notes here if people can get it. Kevin, thank you so much for taking the time today. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, it's my pleasure too. Thanks, Bruce.